When I started my PhD, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what I was going to do after my PhD. I made a lot of mistakes and I took many wrong decisions. In today's video, I will explain the 10 mistakes that you should definitely avoid to make the best out of your PhD. The first mistake would be even before you start your PhD application process. Securing a fully funded PhD position in a reputed university is highly competitive. A decade ago, just good grades were enough. While my grades were really good, and I also had an internship experience in the UK, my GRE scores were pretty average and I did not have any publications. My internships provided only basic molecular biology skills that most undergrads in the US and Europe already possess. Despite this, I still received fully funded PhD position offers from 4 universities in the US. However, today, even getting an interview without relevant research experience and demonstrated scientific competence is almost impossible. If you have minimal research exposure and no publications, then securing a PhD position in a top university is very unlikely. To strengthen your profile, pursue internships and conduct your master's research in a well equipped research institute. Also, aim to publish the output from your undergrad and master's research. Many paid internship opportunities exist for undergraduate and master's students in India. You can also gain experience as a research assistant, junior research fellow, or research associate before you apply. In India, students typically transition from one degree to the next almost immediately. But internationally, it is very common to get work experience or relevant work experience before committing to a PhD program. During the application process, we tend to choose universities with very high rankings in our research area. However, even the best universities may not provide you with the best work environment for an entire 5 years. And that's why it is very important to choose the right mentor, the right PI, or know everything about your PI before you start your PhD program. During the interview process or after receiving an offer, you will have the opportunity to assess the mentorship style of your potential advisor. A PI's mentorship approach is usually influenced by their personality and their lab management style. While it may work very well for them, will it work for you? Some PIs are hands on, spending time with the students in the lab, holding regular meetings, providing regular feedbacks. This is more common in smaller labs where the PI has fewer administrative duties. In larger labs, PhD students often work with postdocs and are expected to develop independence early on. Each mentorship style has its pros and cons, and you must figure out what suits best your learning style. Additionally, also consider non research related factors. How does the PI handle conflicts? How supportive are they of international students taking vacations? How do they react when experiments fail? Are students encouraged to attend conferences and pursue independent ideas? Remember that even a prestigious university and lab cannot compensate for poor mentorship experience. PhD isn't just about working on your own or on your own projects. It's also a lot about collaboration, starting with your own lab members. They can be a valuable source of knowledge, support, and even camaraderie. Before joining a lab, take the time to talk to the current lab members. Do they enjoy working there? Do they help and teach each other? Is collaboration encouraged? If you fall ill or have an urgent commitment, how likely is it that someone will step in to assist with your experiment? Do they have a generally positive attitude towards the lab, their research, and the PI? Since you will be spending the majority of your time in this environment, it is very important to ensure that you feel comfortable with your lab members and that they feel the same about you. You don't need to be close friends or share personal details, but you should be able to work together productively. If you sense that the current lab members are hesitant or not entirely open to share about their experiences, consider reaching out to former lab members for additional insights. Their perspective can provide a complete picture of what it is to really be a part of this lab. Funding is a very crucial factor when choosing a lab, not just for your salary or stipend, but for the overall financial health of the research group. This is especially important in STEM fields where experiments require expensive consumables, specialized services, human subjects, or fieldwork. A well funded lab ensures that your research will not be hindered by budget constraints. You don't want to find yourself months into your PhD competing with your lab members over the last drop of an expensive reagent or compromising your experiments due to lack of funds. Even if a lab is currently very well funded, it doesn't guarantee stability over the next few years. Your PI should be actively applying for grants to maintain a steady flow of resources. On an average, they should be submitting at least 2 to 3 grant applications per year, as funding success rates can be very unpredictable. Before committing to a lab, ask current lab members about the lab's current financial situation and if the PI consistently secures funding. You can also seek insights from other students and other faculty in the department. Doing this homework upfront can save you from a lot of potential frustrations down the line. If you like this video, please support us by subscribing to our channel. And let me know in the comment section what more would you like to learn about studying and working in the US and in Europe. Depending on the field of your PhD, you might need to develop a diverse set of skills. However, it is crucial to identify one skill that you can truly master, one skill that can make you self-sufficient and indispensable. Mastering a specialized skill will not only increase your value in your department and in your lab, but will also open doors for many collaborations, leading to more publications and broader career opportunities after your PhD. For example, if your research relies heavily on a particular piece of equipment or a machine, consider becoming an expert in its operation. Is it a complex system? Do labs or companies typically pay for services related to it? How long does it take to gain proficiency? Can an undergrad student easily learn it? For a biology student or a biology PhD student, such an equipment could be, for example, a flow cytometer or an electron microscope. If your lab has access to specialized tools, take the initiative to learn them, to master them. Go beyond just using them for your own project. Replicate published experiments, explore full range of applications, and familiarize yourself with common troubleshooting issues. This kind of expertise will prove very invaluable when applying for industry positions as companies prioritize candidates with hands-on technical expertise. Having a well-rounded skill set is beneficial, but being a go-to expert in a specific area can set you apart in an increasingly competitive job market. When I started my PhD, I said yes to every opportunity, every project, every experiment, and it led to burnout. By the second year, despite having a great mentor and amazing lab mates, I was completely exhausted and was on the verge of quitting. I was working over 14 hours a day, including weekends, often staying overnight in the lab or walking back home at 1 a.m. It wasn't sustainable at all. Every time I found a project interesting, I took it on, piling up a dozen side projects alongside my main project. Having a backup plan is important. A few side projects can be useful, not just as a fallback plan if your main project fails, but also for increasing your publication output. However, you need to be very strategic. Ask yourself, does this experiment contribute to a publication? Does this experiment help to complete the bigger story? Don't take on projects simply because they seem interesting or because your PI suggests them. Think critically before committing. Ensure that it's completely worth your time and it will lead to tangible results. The same applies to learning new skills. I took extra courses in bioinformatics because I wanted to expand my expertise. While the courses were very useful, they were not enough on their own. I needed to practice with real datasets and continued studying beyond the curriculum. But I couldn't because I was stretched too thin with other commitments, with other projects, with other experiments. If you truly want to learn something outside of your comfort zone, don't make it an afterthought. Make it a routine. Make it a dedicated part of your schedule. Learning a new skill requires consistent effort and not just occasional attention when you have free time. Be selective with your commitments. A well balanced PhD is not about doing everything, it's about doing the right things with intention and focus. Coming from India, I used to believe that finishing my PhD earlier could be rewarding, and that couldn't be further from the truth. At least in the US, completing a PhD under 4 years is almost next to impossible. On average, it takes 5 to 6 years, sometimes even 7. In some cases, external scholarships, especially in Europe and UK, only provide funding for a limited period. If your funding is running out, you may have no choice but to speed up your graduation. However, if you don't have financial constraints, there is no need to rush and submit your thesis. A PhD is a unique phase in your career. It is probably the only time when you are still a student, but also on your way to becoming an independent researcher and leader. You have the freedom to explore, grow, and also make mistakes without the high stakes that come while working as a postdoc or in an industry job. Mistakes that might be costly later in your career are more easily forgiven during this time of your training period as a PhD student. Take full advantage of this time. Learn as much as possible, publish, compete, and maximize your growth as a researcher. If you have multiple first author papers, nobody will care if you finished your PhD in 3 years or 7 years. But your chances of producing strong publications are much higher when you are not constantly focused about leaving. Instead of rushing to graduate, try focusing on making your PhD journey as productive and as rewarding as possible. I used to think that once I submitted my thesis, I would have plenty of time to apply for jobs. I was completely wrong. The job market today is far more competitive than it was a decade ago. Simply submitting applications through online portals is no longer enough. For industry positions, networking is very essential. You will need to establish connections, reach out to hiring managers, or at the very least, secure referrals. If you are considering a postdoc, tapping into your advisor's network, reaching out to potential PIs via cold emails, and meeting them at conferences are all very crucial. And this isn't something that you can cram into your final semester, especially if you're an international student with a very limited time period to secure a job after your graduation due to visa restrictions. Ideally, you should start at least a year before your graduation. Connect with alumni on LinkedIn, build relationships, and position yourselves so that you are ready to ask for referrals when the time comes. Waiting until the last moment will severely limit your options. Start early and make networking an ongoing effort. It is very easy to settle into a routine during your PhD. When you are working for long hours in the lab, it feels like there is barely any time for anything else. You might find yourself stuck in a bubble, talking only to your lab members, taking courses only with a small group of people, and focusing solely on your experiments. While getting good results and publishing papers is important, it is, however, not just enough. If you don't push yourself beyond your immediate research, you are missing out on major growth opportunities. A PhD is not just about doing experiments, it is about becoming a well rounded researcher. You should be able to write grants, give compelling presentations, and explain your work to both scientific and non scientific audiences. Your analytical skills shouldn't just be limited to Microsoft Excel, even if it is just enough for your thesis. Make an effort to consistently step out of your comfort zone. Attend conferences, meet other researchers, learn about their work, and also present your work to them. Get their feedback on how you should make further progress. Take programming courses in Python or R or MATLAB. Even basic coding skills can be very, very useful. Join grant writing workshops and apply for student grants. Even if you don't win, the feedback will help you to improve your writing a lot. Participate in science competitions. They challenge you in new ways and will help you to expand your professional network. Growth happens when you embrace discomfort, when you learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. The more you push yourself for new skills and experiences, the more prepared you will be for whatever comes after your PhD. When I started my PhD, I was simply grateful for the opportunity to do research in the US. I saw it as a major step forward both in my professional as well as my personal life. I felt indebted to everyone, my supervisor, the faculty, and even the department staff. I felt that if I asked too many questions, I would annoy people. If I asked for help, I would seem weak and incompetent. That mindset cost me dearly. After 2 semesters, I reached a breaking point. The work culture, the mentorship, and the projects didn't align with my expectations. I had to switch labs, and while I eventually completed my PhD, I lost 8 months and my mental peace for the entire 8 months in a situation that could have been avoided. If I had asked more questions before joining, interviewed lab members, learned more about the PI's mentorship style, I could have made a better choice right from the beginning. More importantly, I should have sought for help sooner instead of waiting until I was completely burnt out. Remember this: you are in a PhD program because you deserve to be there. You have earned it. You don't owe anyone silent suffering. Ask questions, seek help, advocate for yourself. You are working hard, pushing boundaries, and meeting expectations. You deserve the best possible environment to thrive. A PhD will always be challenging, but at the very least, it should be fair.